Welcome everyone. I welcome you to EDU728 class. Today we want to look at structure of language. Structure of language. The structure of language is divided into four major parts, and that is what we are going to examine. But before we go into that, let us look at these charts and see what the structure of language is all about. When we talk of structure of language, we are talking about phonetics, we are talking about phonology, morphology, syntax, semantics, and pragmatics. When we talk of phonetics, we are talking about speech sounds. Speech sounds, the study of speech sounds in the language is known as phonetics. And phonology deals with phonemes, that is with pronunciation. And when we talk of word and word formation, we are talking about morphology, that is the purple circle morphology. The next one is syntax, and syntax talks about phrases and sentences. It deals with how words are formed, how words are grouped to form phrases, and how phrases are formed together to make a sentence. And then from there, we move to semantics. Semantics talks about meaning, literary meaning, surface meaning, or deeper meaning, or deeper level of meaning. That is what semantics deals about. And while pragmatics, the last one, is talking about meaning in context of discourse, that is meaning of words as being used. And so that is what the structure of language is all about. So start by looking at the four commonly recognized levels of human language. Four commonly recognized levels of human language. We have phonetics and phonology being grouped together here as one. Then we have morphology, we have syntax, and the last one, semantics. So let us examine this one the other. What is phonetics or phonology? What are they all about? Human speech sounds are universal across human languages. Each language makes use of a set of sounds for oral communication. No two languages make use of exactly the same sound or the same set of sounds, and that is why language is unique. There is no language that is not unique, and you cannot study a language through another language. So you need to study a language through the sounds, through the alphabet, through the of other thing that is peculiar to that language. So no two languages make use of exactly the same set of sounds, and that is why no two languages ever sound exactly the same. It is impossible to list the individual sounds of Nigerian languages. You know why? Because we have a very large number of languages, and even majority of them are not documented. So are not cannot be learnt because they don't have orthography. So it is impossible to list individual sounds of Nigerian languages. We will recognize the general patterns and apply them as added general guidelines to the teaching of the three major Nigerian languages. So what we do is application of general patterns to study even the three major languages that we have. Human speech sound system generally involves phonetics and phonology. And we say phonetics refers to the way human speech sounds are produced. The way human speech sounds are produced. This kind of study of human speech sound is called articulatory phonetics. So articulatory phonetics is the way in which human sounds are produced. Phonetics that we learned about organs, each organs of speech, and how they pronounce or how they produce sounds. So items of study in phonetics are vowels. This is what phonetics is all about, vowels of the sound, consonant, tone, intonation, stress pattern, rhymes, rhythm, and so on. So phonology refers to the processes attested generally and for individual languages when individual sound units combine with each other to form words or lexical items. You know, we have said phonetics deals with individual sounds. So when these sounds are put together to form words, and that is when phonology comes into play. So it refers to processes attested generally for individual languages when different sounds from phonetics come together to form words or to form lexical items. So let's look at morphology. Morphology talks about the pattern of word building in human language. Morphology deals with word formation. So morphology is a fairly common term in human endeavor. It refers to the outward structure of a word. The basis of morphology is the morpheme. That is the foundation of morphology. And morpheme is the smallest meaningful indivisible unit of word. That is, words that cannot be divided beyond itself. There are two major morphemes. We have the lexical morphemes and we have grammatical morphemes. Let us look at lexical morphemes. Lexical morphemes are words which give the major content word. They are words that give major content. These lexical morphemes specify things. They talk about things, they talk about qualities, they talk about events. So lexical items or lexical morpheme are very large because they are unlimited. They continue to generate new words. They continue to have added new ones to them. So it's a very large set which allow the addition of new set of words. So the morphemes are continually growing. These particular lexical morphemes continually to grow because of the capacity to add, to accommodate new members as a result of invention, as a result of discoveries, as a result of derivation from new form to create, from existing one to create new. Lexical morphemes, example of lexical morphemes are nouns, names. For example, we know that nouns are naming words. So each under lexical morpheme, in which noun is an example, when we give birth to a child, names continue to emerge. And so that is why we said lexical morphemes are unlimited. They continue to create, new ones continue to emerge, and so creativity is allowed in lexical morphemes. So under it also we have verbs, we have adjectives, we have adverbs, and so on. So they change their categories. Lexical morphemes change their categories when new morphemes are derived from them. For example, when new ones are derived from them, we refer to such as derivation morphemes. For example, in English, the word beauty is a noun. And so when the Y changes to I and FUL is added to beauty, it becomes beautiful. So it is no longer noun, but it has changed to an adjective. So beautiful, therefore, become a derivational morpheme. And this is because beautiful is derived from the noun beauty. So lexical morphemes may exist as free morpheme or bound morpheme. That is, lexical morphemes can be divided into two. We have free morphemes and we have bound morphemes. So in free morphemes, there are morphemes that can stand on their own and they will be meaningful. While bound morphemes are morphemes that needed to be attached to free morphemes before they can be meaningful. For example, in Hausa language, we have the word yaro, which means boy. So the word yaro conveys a singular form of a boy. That is, we are talking of a singular boy, a boy. So when it becomes when it becomes yara, then the concept of talking about singular has changed, and so Yara means boys, but Yara is derived from Yaro. So when we talk of Yara, Yaro is involved. So it carries a number value. That is, it tells us that it is no longer single, but plural. And that goes beyond singularity expressed by the word Yaro, boy. So it means that Yaro plus at least another Yaro will lead to Yara. And so the word Yaro is a free morpheme, while Yara is a bound morpheme, because Yara is derived from Yaro, and Yaro is singular when Yara is. So bound morphemes require the addition of another morpheme to make them bound. So to give them an added meaning. So the addition of a morpheme to change a free morpheme to a bound morpheme can take place either before the morpheme or after the morpheme. When it occurs before the morpheme, we call it prefix. But when it occurs after the word, that is, when it comes after the word, then we refer to it as suffix. And so these are very, very germane that we as teachers need to teach our students. And the two, the prefix, that is when it occurs before the word, and suffix when it occurs after the words, are known as affixes. So when you study affixes, it means you are studying prefix and suffix. And so the teacher of Nigerian language should handle morphology critically in such a manner that students can easily identify all forms of affixes in the language. Affix should be identified from roots, from stem, from word where possible or applicable. Morpheme teaching should enable the student to see in isolation and in connected speech and expressions. For example, in Yoruba, Olu representing the genitive ha as the doer, and is a prefix to the word ko, so which means teach. When we now put Olu and ko together, we now have the word Oluko, which means teacher. So in Hausa also we have soja, and is a root word to sojoji. So is the plural and is marked by plural suffix oji. In the following Igbo example, we have the root word do, which means make peace. And when the prefix u turns into derived now ndo, then it means peacemaker. So the nasal and shin, for example, in Yoruba word, play syntactic role. So to express the progressive aspect in Yoruba, any of the three nasal sounds preceding the simple verb in Yoruba sentence automatically turns it into progressive. So the morphological forms of the three major lineages should be taught, of the three major languages should be taught by getting the student to identify the morphemes in the words and analyzing them in words within a larger context that is more than the word. Students should be taught to pay attention to wrong use and omission of morphemes in words, in sentences, or even in larger units beyond level. So let us look at syntax. Syntax refers to ordering or sequencing of words to give grammatical and semantic meaning. Syntax involves the acquisition of a set of rules which specify how sentences are made out of phrases and phrases from words, and by specifying level of relationship between words in the sentences. So syntax talks about how words come together to form phrases and how phrases come together to form words. And you know, combination of sentences is what will lead to forming a paragraph. So it is syntax that specifies the level of relationship that exists among words in a sentence. Syntax may be said to consist of the following. 1. A set of syntactic rules which specify how sentences are built out of phrases and phrases out of words. 2. A set of morphological rules which specify how words are built up out of morphemes. out of grammatical units smaller than the words. And thirdly, a set of phonological rules which specify how words are pronounced. And number 4, a set of semantic rules which specify how words or phrases and sentences are interpreted. So the sentence is a core of syntax. The same way, word order and relative sequence or ordering of sentence constitutes subject, verb, and object. And these are central to sentence and syntax. There are 6 word order, and this 6 word order is what human sentences are usually take for. These 6 word order are subject, object, verb, subject, verb, object, verb, subject, object, verb, object, subject, object, verb, subject, and lastly, object, subject, verb. Majority of the world languages operate at the level of subject, object, verb, while about 35.4% operate at subject, verb, object word order. The 3 major Nigerian languages operate at subject, verb, object word order. So to teach syntax in the 3 major languages, students should be taught to build phrases from words and sentences from phrases and build paragraphs from sentences. So let us look at semantics. What is semantics? We said semantics talks about meaning. It shows meaning relationship. So language has semantic structure, and this structure deals with meaning relationship, which is tagged with vocabulary. Semantics and meaning relationship derive from the inherent property of words and individual lexical items, either naturally as word or as they are used in sentences. So semantics allows message decoding in communication. So let us identify the most relevant of these as follows. Reference and sentence relation, that is one important thing in semantics. Then we talk of denotative and connotative meaning. There is literal and figurative meaning. There is sentence and utterance meaning. And also there is lexical semantics and sentence semantics. These are various relevant semantics or various ways in which semantics operates. So meaning relationships are important because they can very easily become the source of confusion due to meaning duplication called ambiguity. So if there is misinterpretation, it will affect communication. It will lead to ambiguity. So it means semantics is an aspect of the language that must be well handled. In speaking and writing, you should be mindful of relationship. So let us look at language skills and communication, because language skills and communication has a lot to do with phonetics, with phonology, with syntax, with semantics, and even with morphology. So let us look at language skills. They are those areas that are primarily concerned with communication skills, and that is why at times they are being referred to as communication skills. They are skills needed in language communication. They are skills very, very germane when it comes to communication. And these skills are listening, speaking, reading, and writing. These skills are embedded in linguistics level of language analysis. And these skills can be divided into 2. We have the receptive skills and we have the expressive skills. Under receptive skills, you receive information. For example, when you are listening or when you are reading, so you receive information. And when you are speaking as well as writing, you express yourself. And that is why listening and reading is known as receptive skills, while speaking and writing are known as expressive skills. So whatever language we speak, either as first or second language, we must learn to use the correct sounds in order to facilitate good communication. so that will be able, our listener will be able to interpret what we are saying. So good pronunciation is very important, and it is one of the ingredients of showing competency of in language learning or in language acquisition. And when we talk of good pronunciation, it includes linguistic competence, communicative competence, and strategic. So let us look at linguistics competence. This consists of your ability to manipulate the linguistic structure of the language in order to ensure communication. While communicative competence has to do with your ability to manipulate linguistic structure of the second language you are learning to conform with the environment of the language, the context of the language, and situation of communication as it pertains to the language. While strategic competence refers to the strategy in speaking or in writing which are being used to accomplish effective communication between the speaker and the listener. These are very important because effective communication is the ease with which to affect acceptable communication between the listener and the speaker. So at the level of speech, you may not need to stress yourself because there is eye-to-eye contact and then there is immediate feedback. And so you are likely going to make eyes-to-eyes contact with your listener. But at the level of reading, you are not there. You will not be there when that thing is being read. And so you need to be clear and distinct and demonstrate good reading skills to make your audience listen to you with good measure of understanding. So writing is a way in which we communicate. And for us to communicate effectively, you have to write using a distinct and a clear, your expression must be clear and it must demonstrate good reading skills that will make your audience to listen with good measure of understanding. So writing is a way of communicating which involve written communication. And so you cannot get immediate feedback from reading, from writing reading skills, because you stand if it is not clear, if what you put down is not clear, you stand in risk of being misunderstood or not being understood at all. So when this happens, communication breakdown occurs, and it means communication has not been effective at all. So writing calls for good writing skills. These skills include spellings, good spellings, good punctuation, good use of punctuation marks, appropriate choice of lexical items, good sentence construction, and so on. These are what makes up linguistically, communicatively, social, pragmatically, and strategically competent. So the following skills also are integrated. They are very important, and so they must be integrated. Phonology, orthography, grammatical and lexical knowledge, and all of them amounts to linguistics competence. So when a child is able to integrate phonology, orthography, grammatical and lexical knowledge, then we can say such a child has a good command of linguistics competence. So linguistic competence and communicative competence are necessary ability in effective communication. So it is impossible to think of a person being communicatively incompetent without linguistically competent. So pragmatic knowledge and discourse knowledge also provide the link between linguistic competence and actual language in specific situations. Thus, language skills are very important in second language learning. So therefore, you as teachers of the three major Nigerian languages, it is important for you to develop all language skills as we have stated here. These language skills are, we have listening, speaking, reading, and writing. And they can be taught in isolation, but they are best taught when it is done integratively. So a single task may be given to students, but while carrying out that task, it will lead to another task and will make them to listen to the language, speak the language, and write the language in an intelligent manner. So at the level of linguistic structure are necessary. Linguistic structure are necessary for effective communication. They too are integrated in language skills. So the ability to manipulate them account for linguistic competence, account for communicative competence and strategic competence. These competencies must be developed by you and must be mastered by you so that you can pass this on to the students that you teach. Thanks for listening.